Hey there, everybody. Today we're going to try a little bit different format that I'm going to tentatively call Wrench and Rant, where I work on a bike project, but also I don't want to say rant or complain, but there might be some complaining going on. Let's get to the wrenching project first of all. I'm going to try once again to install the Paul 100% Pure Cranks. These just dropped. They're supposed to be 1x, but we're using it with our 2x Spider. And this is the second time I'm going to try installing it on this bike. The first time I didn't have the right length square taper bottom bracket. It was a little bit too long. This just came in the mail today. It's another square taper bottom bracket. This one is actually a 107. This is a 107. The one in here is a 124. I did the math and I'm supposed to get like a 103, but I couldn't find a 103. So this is about as short as we're going to get to install this so far. In terms of the renting side, there's been all sorts of drivetrain releases, XT wireless, Dior wireless, DRX wireless, 1x. I saw something on GCN. Someone's come out with a 1x14 electronic group set. And the rant today is, what's the point, and is it ever going to stop? Or are we just going to be on this endless cycle of adding more gears every couple of years until the chain is basically like a piece of floss? And first thing I'm going to do is remove this current crank and pedal setup. These are some Spa Cycles cranks, and they work perfectly with the 124 bottom bracket. That's actually why I had the 124 bottom bracket. This one is a 4226, great wide range double. The rear here is I believe a 1142 in 11 speed. Even though it doesn't have 12 or 13 speeds, it has a much wider range than all the new electronic drivetrains out there. So let's get these pedals off. Of course, this brings me to the first point of contention. It seems like every time there is a added speed, from 11 to 12, 12 to 13, the increase in range isn't there. You guys have heard me use this analogy before, where basically what's going on is, you're being sold the same size pizza and they're just cutting it up into smaller pieces and charging you more. I feel like I would react differently to all these speed upgrades if we actually got wider range. But for whatever reason, the bike industry is very constrained to like a set amount of gear ranges per type of group set. Whether that's a road, you get this, or a mountain, you get this. All of a sudden, everyone's excited because now you can put GRX shifters with an XTR rear derailleur. I mean, I've been doing that for years with like a friction shifter, essentially. I feel like if you're essentially getting the same range and things are getting more expensive, yes, there are kind of like very incremental updates, but generally speaking, I don't think, the experience of the rider is really vastly improved. I mean, you're just emptying wallets at this point. The cynical part of me, who's asking this question of what's the point, knows exactly what the point is, right? I think we all know what the point is at this point, and it's to sell stuff. I've been thinking about this a lot, and I think one of the kind of fundamental problems with the relatively modern bicycle is that they're just so dang good. Like you have to kind of manufacture problems in order to entice people to upgrade or buy a new bike. All right, time to get the cranks off. I'm sure a bunch of you have never seen one of these before at this point. It's a square taper crank puller. I think it's kind of ironic that I'm working on a square taper bike with this theme, by the way. All right, let me focus a little bit just to make sure I don't cross thread anything. All right. I was thinking of a interview that our friend Daniel Yang at Yang Manufacturing did with uh with the tire manufacturer. And the tire manufacturer basically said, without constant innovation, there's no industry. So I feel for manufacturers, for big brands, because they are at a place where bikes are so good that you kind of have to make up problems or kind of sell people on very incremental gains and advantages at this point. One nice thing about the Paul cranks, of course, is that they've got self-extracting bolts. So you actually don't need to use a crank puller if you're using cranks like this. Okay, we've got the second crank arm off. Easy peasy, not too bad. All right, next part is to remove the bottom bracket. hopefully I can do it on the stand here. Let's make sure everything's kind of locked down. Where was I on the rant part? Let's say all bike innovation stopped today. That whatever technology we have, there was a big EMP and everything is frozen. All the factories can't make any new bike stuff, and we just have to live with the existing bike technology that exists today. I honestly don't think we'd be the less for it. I don't think we'd enjoy bikes any less if we never had to upgrade again. In some ways, I think it would be liberating because we could just focus on the act of riding, right? Maintaining what you got and riding the bike that you have. But like that tire manufacturer said in the Daniel Yang video, that there would essentially be no industry because bikes are so robust, parts are generally good. That for most people there probably isn't like an actual reason to have to get a new bike, and unless you crash it, basically. So drive side is righty loosey. Okay. This is a crown race puller. I find that it works pretty good to add some extra leverage to just this little ratcheting wrench. Not a pro tip because I'm not a professional. It's just something that I do. All right, so I've got the old bond bracket out. Time to install the new one. Again, this is a 107. According to some ads, I should actually be running a 103, but I'm assuming that this is close enough that I'll be able to shift between the rings with the front derailleur. So see how it goes. Just gonna put some grease on the threads here. Just working on your bike and talking. It's actually a lot harder than it looks. I've been watching a lot of the bike farmer videos. It's like, oh, I should try one of those. Uh, Hats off to you. I mean, it doesn't help that I'm in a super cramped space also. So that's gonna be my excuse for that. I think I'm gonna put it in the non-drive side cup first. I always like to turn it backwards a little bit just to find the threads. All right, let's put in the drive side and get the cranks on, and hopefully that they work this time. I'm going to focus just a bit, just to make sure I don't cross thread anything here. Call that good enough. Now the moment of truth. Let's put on these Paul Pure cranks. You didn't see the last video. Basically the problem was, when when the folks at Paul designed this, they didn't have 2x in mind. Although lots of people are running them with 2x cranks, so there wasn't really any guidance on spindle length if you're going to do it 2x. Mostly because there's no kind of standard to the spiders. They might have different offsets. The folks at Mary's Sales reached out and told me that the offset for this should be 6 millimeters. So in theory, they suggested like a 103 would work. I couldn't find a 103. I found a 107. Hopefully this will make it short enough. In terms of like the practical reason why it wasn't working is that the rings were too outboard and the front derailleur couldn't cover the sweep. So while not perfect, hopefully this will get us close enough. Find the hole. This went on pretty smoothly. Okay, moment of truth. Put it on a small ring there. And we'll see if it shifts up into the bigger ring. Yep. Okay. I know you're hearing the squeaking sound and thinking it's SRAM electronic shifting, but it's actually not. There's just like some dust somewhere on the cable here. So it's looking good in the big, small, and the highest gear combination. There's a little bit of rub here, but I think I can address that with the adjusting the limit screw on the low end. So let's do that. I believe it's this screw over here. So I backed out the limit screw to the point where it's not um, where it's not hitting the stop at all. So it's basically just floating over the stop. It's about as inward as it gets, and it looks like I'm still getting some rub here. We're gonna try something really quickly, see if I can't still make it work. It looks like the derailleur is slightly not perfectly straight, so we're gonna fix that. So all I'm doing is rotating the front derailleur that way just a bit. Not that it's excessive, but just actually just making it kind of plain with the chain rings. All right, I think that did it. So in the smallest, in the lowest gear combination, small, big here is no longer rubbing. So now I'm gonna shift it into big chain ring and small cog in the cassette. Make sure that still clears. Oops. All right, so we've got clearance in the highest gear combination. All right, so I think I got it at a good place. When it's in the highest gear, it's not rubbing, and when it's in the lowest gear combination, it's not rubbing. So let's finish it off and put the non-drive side crank. We got both crank arms on. Now to kind of just finish off and put on the pedals, and then I will actually get a chance to ride this for the first time tomorrow morning. Probably getting up at around 4:35 a.m. to ride bikes just because of the heat wave here in Spain, but at least we can still get out. I've completely lost track of what I was supposed to be ranting about. Uh, let's see, basically more speeds without increase of range is kind of dumb. Manufacturing problems to sell more things as like a necessary tenant of business or capitalism, if you will. And lastly, I would propose that if all bike technology innovation stopped today, I don't think most of us would be like any worse off or sadder for it. I mean, like the next feasible step would be like brain implants. So you just think about shifting and then it shifts. These are some IRD platform pedals, composite with 1, 2, 3, 6 with 8 pins on each side. Pretty grippy. No complaints whatsoever. Lots of great flat pedal options. So speaking of manufacturing problems, like another thing I've been thinking about is the whole integrated internal routing thing. And I get that some people like it because of aesthetics, but I think that's another instance where things have been made purposely more complicated, uh, just so just so you have to bring it into a shop to swap handlebars. And I remember reading somewhere where some people in the industry want the bike industry to move into the direction of how like car mechanics has been uh, for a long time, where whereas it's just complicated enough for most people that they'd rather just drop it off at like a service department. So while it's in the sheep's clothing of aerodynamics, aesthetics or something like the actual motivation is, well, we got to keep the bike shops in business. We got to charge them like $600 for integrated handlebar stem. Make it so that no normal person would want to do it, and thus force them into the sale. On this side, the pedal threads to the left or to the front of the bike. Always turn the pedals to the front of the bike to tighten, and to the rear of the bike to loosen, and you'll avoid the dreaded cross threading. That's looking pretty good. I'm going to shift through it one more time. Okay, highest gear. You got some clearance. Lowest gear, we've got like a millimeter or two clearance. It looks good. The big bummer part about that is, aside from it costing the consumer a ton of money, is that I think it takes away the simple joy of learning how to use tools, how to problem solve, and how to do things on your own from the average person. Not that people can't learn to, deal with a completely integrated headset that's internally routed. I'm actually going to build up a bike like that just for the experience and to share with you guys on video. But I do think that's enough friction for the common person to not go through with it, to not do it, and potentially be turned off by bikes. Or maybe they just have a ton of money and it's like, here, change the handlebar stem. Here's $1,000. Have at it. Okay, let's take a close up of these babies here. They're looking good. Again, these are the chain rings from our one day soon to materialize alt crank set. But I'm stoked to see that it works with the Paul cranks, even though it wasn't intended to. Whether the things they're afraid of was the crank arm hitting the front derailleur, but in this instance, it seems to clear it okay. All that to say is that it's my strong belief that even if you are into like the super new carbon integrated stuff, you should have a bike like this, or everyone should have a bike like this. It's very simple, it's very transparent, very easy to work on. Think of it as adult Legos. You can shape it very easily for low cost into what you want. Like, for example, this gear train here, I believe the gear range is over 600%, which is just not feasible with any electronic drivetrain so far. But with a little handiwork and a lot less money, if you're into low gears and wide range, you can achieve it relatively easily. Get yourself a bike that you can work on at home, that you can watch those old school park tool videos, familiarize yourself, get comfortable. Don't be afraid to work on your bike, turn it into what you actually want. Yeah, I guess that's the case. That's probably the best case for the 80s or 90s mountain bike. Mechanical things, learning how to work on bikes. They're great. They're great test dummies. All right, let me know what you guys think of this format, this wrench and rant. I gotta come up with a better name for it. If you guys have suggestions, leave those in the comments below. If you guys like this video, want to support the channel, we don't do a ton of brand sponsorships just so we can talk about things that might not agree with the mainstream bike industry at large. And it's possible because of viewers chipping in, we can make this alternative cycling content, which is kind of sad because I feel like it should be more mainstream. But yeah, check out the links below, and as always, keep the supple side down.